We've got a golden opportunity now to get in the face of these guys and to say, no, bugger off, we don't want it.
Hello and welcome to everybody and to this Pilliga Rising watch party. Hi, I'm Micaela Jemison from the Wilderness Society. I'd like to first acknowledge that wherever we are today, we're meeting, working and living on the lands of the original people of this land. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today on this live stream. So welcome, please. I'm so excited for you guys to be joining us for the first online launch of the Pilliga Rising movie. Please let me know where you are around the country in the comments below where you're joining us from. We'd love to hear from you, give you a bit of a shout out. I am really excited to be joined today by a really great bunch of people who will be here after we watch the movie to answer all of your questions of not only about the movie itself, but also the campaign that led to its making. So firstly, up in the right-hand corner here, we've got Elle, Lawless. She is the Wilderness Society Newcastle campaign manager. Hi, Elle. Thanks for joining us. We also have here Mark Pearce, filmmaker and director of Pilliga Rising. Thank you so much for being with us, Mark.
Thanks, guys. Good to be here.
We also have with us Giselle. Giselle is our Movement for Life, one of our team members out of Wilderness Society's community organising program. She's from Manly in the Northern Beaches and is also a university undergraduate. How are you, Giselle?
Not too bad. Excited to watch the movie tonight.
Wonderful. And last but definitely not least, we've got Margaret Fleck, who's a representative here from Lock the Gate and a farmer from the Northwest of New South Wales. Thank you for joining us, Margaret.
Yes, Margaret. Hello, pleased to be here.
Okay. So before we get off, click off on the movie, I'd like to just quickly bring up Elle here and just say, why are we coming together here today to watch this movie?
Thanks, Micaela, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. Good on you for joining us. So this movie was actually funded by 996 Wilderness Society supporters. So a big shout out to them for all of their generous donations to make this movie actually happen. So we're here tonight because it's really crunch time to protect the Pilliga forest. The Narrabri Gas Project has been referred to the Independent Planning Commission, and that process is set to grant or deny final approvals for Santos to plunge 850 dirty coal seam gas wells through the precious Pilliga forest and the Great Artesian Basin. And this is all on the lands of the Gamilaroi peoples, and I'd like to pay my respects to them. So this process opens up a public submission round. So we all now have the opportunity to stop this project from going ahead by making our voice heard and putting in a submission to object to the Narrabri Gas Project in the Pilliga Forest. We'll be sharing the link in the chat for how to make a submission. It's not difficult, but it is incredibly critical. Many of you would know this campaign. It's been going on for close to 10 years now. The local community have been fighting it for a very long time. So it's wonderful to have Margaret on board today, who is a farmer from the Northwest. So I think, we're ready to watch the film. It's great to have you all on board.
And look, we've got people from around the country at the moment. Actually, just giving a shout out to a couple of you here. We've got Meg Walker from Dixon and Canberra. Thanks for joining us, Meg. We also have Maureen here from Merimbula in New South Wales. It's great that I'm so glad you have joined us around here. We have Rachel from Albury in Wiradjuri land. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced it, but thank you so much for being here as well. And I'll give one more shout out to Tom Gabe up in Northern Rivers in Bunna-Jingalong country. Oh God, I've got to get better at pronouncing these Aboriginal names. But thank you so much for joining us. Now, without further ado, we're going to get the movie up and started. But as you are watching it, if you all have questions for any of us to answer as you're watching it, we'll be answering in the comments below, or we can please put them through, and we'll be saving them also for the end for our 5 guests to be doing a live Q&A as well. So without any further ado, get your popcorn out. Let's watch the movie.
Shh, the story's about to begin.
The Pilliga has protected us since the beginning of time. It provides everything we need, and to be able to respect that and connect to that is really important. And I think that's why a lot of community are really fighting against mining in this area, because they've been able to be here and see what it can provide for them and see the beauty that they get to be surrounded and protected by.
This is where we choose to bring our kids up. We've got space, you know, the kids are involved in all facets of the farming operation, particularly with the animals, and it's just the greatest place in the world to bring up kids. The fact that just this Narrabri project is the start with 6 more gas fields penciled in, it's just plain scary. This is not an argument about farm businesses. This is an argument about communities.
How exactly do you expect to put this pipeline through, where basically you're going to have direct action being put by farmers and local community members, Aboriginal groups, all coming together to prevent this coming through? Because basically, apart from bringing the army with you, there's no chance of you coming through this community.
If we've got legal rights to do something and people are going to resist us, how are we going to view that in the law? I think that'll be an issue not just for us, it'll be an issue for government, it'll be an issue for law enforcement agencies.
Coal seam gas is like a cloud hanging over every person involved. I think the only person who are in favour of it are the ones who will benefit in one or the other way. But people who love the Pilliga would never ever trade it in for money. The people in the industry, they're hurting us. They're really hurting other human beings by forcing something on the nature, what nature really doesn't want. The nature itself can't cope, and if you can listen and feel it, it is very obvious that we have to stop hurting each other.
Unfortunately, governments have already enacted that they can't be held responsible for any of their decisions that they make. Well, we can always blacken your eye with the truth, and we can always take the companies on. They haven't got an excuse. They know the problem, but they're running from it, and they've fooled others to believe that there is no problem. So in that way, I'm going to hold you accountable for what you've done if anything goes wrong in the future. And I expect the public to do the same. I came here with the purpose to have a peaceful, quiet, enjoyable retirement, a place that I could call home, but also as a base to go out and enjoy myself with my wife. So we then bought this place. At the end of 2006, I really started to take notice of the gas industry up here. 2006 is when my first bore went down. They'd had a fracking event down the forest. My bore, the next day when we fired it up, virtually no water came out of it. So I then got onto Eastern Star Gas and tried to talk to them and just drew a complete and utter blank. It's not us, it's all yours. Officer Water didn't want to care about it. Nobody cared about it. We drilled another bore in 2008. We then equipped the bore in 2010 when eventually the pumps in the old one failed. We were using that water up until 2012 out of the new bore, and it was beautiful water. When Santos bought Eastern Star Gas out, I went straight over to their water place. I said, will you come out and test my water? And there was nothing wrong with it at that stage. And they said, oh, yeah, we'll be right. Yeah, we'll come out. Well, no problems, we'll come out and test your water for you. And as coincidence has it, 10 days before they turned up, my bore went belly up and started to issue foul-smelling water out of it. There was a lot of ants in it, and this water was thick with them. And the only way that can happen is if they've been snuffed out, gassed out. So anyway, they took their sample away. They could smell the hydrogen sulphide. We heard nothing back from them. And then eventually, after I rang them a few times and sent them a few emails, they came out here and he said, look, Tony, he said, I've got a letter for you here. And he handed me the letter, written by Santos, which acknowledges they did a water test. However, the results indicated that the water was not suitable for domestic consumption and that I shouldn't use it for that purpose. Anyway, he said, look, we can help you out with water if you need it. We can deliver water to you. They've never come back. And we've never got any water from them. So we've been living on rainwater ever since.
There's no rain in the moment, so we have to cart water in. And the fact that we have to cart water in make us realize what is the future, how can we preserve this place and how can we make a living here. I came from Germany in late 70s. We traveled as tourists in Australia. We purchased the farm then as a backpacker. The one aspect of moving to this area here was the aspect to have freedom. And out of this freedom, we created Pilliga pottery. Pilliga is the name from this forest around us, and the pottery, we called it Pilliga pottery because we love the Pilliga so much. And we thought, it's great to have a property in this surrounding. And that was for us the reason we bought that, because it belongs to the people of Australia. We live now with 3 generations, and that is myself, my son, and his wife, Regina, with their 2 kids. So that made us 3 generations, and my son and my daughter presently living here at Bacala as well. We employ people and also host volunteer people as well. So it's a very multicultural group who come and live as an extended family where everyone can contribute to shape the place and also to make it comfortable for our lifestyle. They call it the jewel in the Pilliga.
My wife and I row. We came out here in about 2003 and started to put a bit of this country together, and this is where we've called home since then, and yeah, this is our part of the world. We do a bit of dryland cropping, about 2,000 acres of dryland cropping, and the rest is grazing in this river country here that you can see. I can tell you just on our little postage stamp, just our little neck of the woods, like in 2016, we grew 10.5 million serves of chickpeas here, and we grew enough barley to then go and play a direct role in the production of 5.5 million serves of beef. And I was doing that on 1 day a week. And if we can do that on our little patch, what are the neighbours doing? You know, what's the region doing in that macroeconomic space? You want a kingdom? Wow.
I don't know that you can buy kingdoms.
How are you going to earn your $1 million?
With lottery.
This gets better. The proposed pipeline at this point is to connect the Narrabri gas project to the Moomba pipeline. We're looking at going 1.2 metres right underneath my backside. And to do that in country like this, it just does not make sense. You've got our highly erodible vertisol soils that are just not going to stand up when, you know, you can see here, we're in flood country here. On the table right now is the proposal to drill the 850 wells over the 95,000 hectares. And that is just the start. We're looking at licences that cover the Liverpool Plains. We've got the exploration licences that cover our part of the world, and we're just not buying that that's it. This is going to be massive. One thing that proponents of the coal seam gas industry would have you believe is that, you know, the wishes, the feelings of farmers and individual community members are not significant. Well, 96% of people over 3.2 million hectares are opposed to coal seam gas. We're against coal seam gas. Why did that many people vehemently oppose this issue? We're communities. We have been here for a very long time. The fact that my family's been here since 1905, I mean, that it pales in significance to our Indigenous mates who have been here, you know, for eternity.
I'm a Gamilaroi woman from Coonabarabra in New South Wales. My connection to country goes way further back than myself. My grandfather was Bill Robinson. He was a leader and elder in this community. When he passed away, it really left a hole in our family and our community. I got used to having him not in, you know, our own family life anymore, but then started to realise the effects that that was having on community and the gap that it left in knowledge and connection and understanding how important his role was as an elder. And I worried for the generations that would miss out on the wonderful cultural upbringing that I had had. Rather than waiting for somebody to come along, I thought, it's up to me. I'm the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Projects Officer for Orana Arts. I came into this role with the idea of how can I create a voice for my generation to take control of the country's narrative. I was able to develop a program called CETA, which stands for Contemporary Environment, Technology and Arts. I like to think of CETA with the young kids like the cameras and the drones and whatnot is like the honey, and they come in because that's the language they understand. And by the end of it, they're practicing culture, they're understanding culture because it's being delivered in a way that makes sense to them at this point in time. It gives the opportunity for younger artists and younger people to actually get on country, listen to the stories that are existing, but also be making stories as they're here and creating the next generation of narrative within this space so that when they come here as elders themselves, they'll talk about what they've been taught, but they'll also talk about what they've done. Maya Mali. Everybody's been really inspired by coming here, I think, because it's such a unique place and it feels so untouched. And and you can see our ancestors all over it, and that's really special and really helps people to understand the meaning of connecting to country and seeing yourself within it.
Start to concentrate on your ring presence now. Keep those eyes above the spine all the time. That's it. You're getting closer to the money.
Bound together by the salts that were spilt on this area. You know, and there's the salts, there's the nucleised salts. And that's what these kill sites did, the British fluid did. It just turned everything into a almost rock.
It's our responsibility to take care of humanity. Together we share this land, because we are all family. Teach our children of the old ways, keep culture strong, keep it maintained. Showing our children right from wrong, the meaning of culture, how to keep it strong. Now we have a new generation, walk among spirits of the past. Now we all stand together, and together we'll make it last.
The stupid part about it is when it gets wet, really wet, you bog up to your ankles walking through it. So, and when it dries out, it just goes like that. And that's all the way down to the clay barrier.
So job one, calm him down, get him relaxed. Job two, then balance him and set him. He's had enough, I think. That's good, mate. Well done, buddy.
This is known as the southern recharge of the Great Artesian Basin. Rainfall occurs, hits the ground, gets naturally filtered out by the trash on the surface initially, then the soils down below. The trees here are the important thing that holds this whole system together. They also put their roots down through the clay barrier and allow the water to enter deeper down. They are the lungs of the area. We keep knocking it all down, we're not going to have any lungs left. We're not going to have anything to convert our CO2s to something we can breathe. I'm not against mining, but it must be done in respect to three key things. It must be done with respect to the environment. It must be done with respect to the rules, laws and regulations of the country or the state and the area where you're working in. And it must be done with respect to the people in the area where you're going to operate.
Welcome everyone for travelling, particularly those who've come from afar. APA proposed to build a pipeline across our shire. We have us doing our thing on the top. We've got our wonderful Great Artesian Basin underneath us, and down below that there's these coal seams where they want to get this gas out of. Now they've got to drill through our water to get to these coal seams, pour down a heap of toxic chemicals, blow the bejesus out of it, and flush it with ridiculous quantities of water, then pull it all back up, purify the gas, and then palm the waste off to some poor sod. I've asked myself Should we just roll over and get out of the way? Are we making a kerfuffle? Are we just being a little bit alarmist? We have a track record of coal seam gas, not just in Queensland, but right through the US. And that track record stinks in terms of environmental outcomes, in terms of impacts on farmers, and most importantly, in terms of the impacts on communities and people's health. If we do nothing, Coonamble will be a gas field. Our water will be irreversibly poisoned. And our community and our children will pay. So we've got a golden opportunity now to fire up, to get in the face of these guys and to say, no, bugger off, we don't want it. We have to look at how we value our resources and where we rank our resources in terms of value to society, you know, Australia-wide, worldwide. And if water doesn't start taking a high peg over fossil fuels, it's just complete insanity. We can operate without fossil fuels. We're certainly getting there if we're not there already, but we can't operate without water. Tell me someone that can operate without water. No.
Micaela has got 2 active bores presently, and 1 bore ceased, so there's no water anymore, and the other bore, we're very afraid to pump too much out of it, so we are very conservative. Now we have to really rethink in how we structure. You know, one opportunity is to have more dams and bring more tanks in. So what our future will be that we have to learn to manage much more water, to save it and treat it as it is gold.
The Pilliga is such a high drought region, and it still flourishes and provides everything we need. To look at this area as just bush is definitely really misleading. It's actually more of a safe haven for animals, for people, both in the past and today. The magic in the Pilliga is that everything is in a really lovely balance. And that's why it works for people, why it works for farmers, why it works for practicing culture, why it works for communities to live a bit more sustainably here. It's in a perfect order that works. So it is very scary to think about that balance being thrown out and the same respect and use of the land not connecting with how we've all done it, Indigenous and non-Indigenous now, for a long time.
I was brought up with culture and music where home comes close to myself, you know, and sharing that with my beautiful community is nothing nicer than be able to do that, you know, to share that, and we all have the same feeling in the same moment. And nothing is nicer than holding hands or feeling embraced by love.
It is my great pleasure to introduce to you the founder of Pilliga Pottery, who came to this place where there was nothing but a lot of gum trees, brought immense dreams and vision, hours and years of hard work. Ladies and gentlemen, Maria Rickett.
For the last 30 years, I tried and have created art and culture around myself, because it is so good for my soul. And my heart can speak and I can breathe. And this is a special moment because I believe in the power of art and culture. And that inspires and motivates people to do something. I want to promote and share this with you, my community, my beloved community. What better way than that to experience opera under the stars?
Northwest forte quella città, l'elmo. La 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 la.
The reason we still have a show is because we have these people today that we're badging that they're life members of the Show Society. They spent a lot of years organising every single show day.
Coonamble Show has a major role for the youth of the town and the community. They get a day off school and they can come together with a common interest and connect. It really enriches the fabric of our little community.
Everybody gets a prize.
Competing for the $200. Through my involvement in the Show Society movement, I'm lucky enough to have mentored and trained kids for a few years now, and at the moment in particular, working with a couple of guys, Mitch and a young girl, Marnie. We work on showing cattle. It doesn't matter what it is, it could be 2-unit belly dancing, it doesn't matter. The important skills behind that, are those transferable employability skills and the connections that they'll make. Come on. With that comes considerable responsibility in terms of animal welfare and animal ethics. And we need to make sure that those kids are able to, A, do it themselves, but B, also mentor other people on how to ethically deal with animals and have animals involved in their lifestyle or their business, but also be accountable in the way that they do that. With the coal seam gas industry, that choice will be taken away from our kids. You know, everything that we do here is about providing a choice. We don't expect them to take the farm on, when we're old and crotchety and going to be wheeled around or we're 6 foot under. But we damn sure want them to have that choice. And I don't think it's fair that anybody can come in to our kids and say they can't have that choice. Because, we've lived here and worked hard here for many generations, and I just, for such a short-term exploitive industry to come in here and say that for 30 years of gain, if they get that, it's wrong.
My hands give everything, but when I see old people's hands, they even lived longer and they gave much more. They gave work to the land, they gave cuddlings to their children, they picked people up when they were falling down, and they fought in wars. These hands did everything. And I trust these people with their hands, and I love these people in my community. I love the women who shaped, the women who go to the women's associations, the people who go to the churches, the people who form the community, they hold everything together. And I give my hand, I give my work, and help these people fighting together against coal seam gas. In my heart, I will fight against it. With my work, I will fight against it, and I will speak against it.
There's something really healthy in having a voice. Being instrumental in connecting people to country that have led me through my entire life, and that's really special. So being able to take that back to them and show them and have them be a part of that management to really help them carry out their roles as well. So it's really important that we serve our elders to the best of our abilities. They're our knowledge keepers, and if we want to know that knowledge and be elders one day, we need to make sure we take care of them and do the right thing while we can.
Those mountains we've seen, right, was there caves there?
Yes. Yeah.
There's caves in there?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm too old now to climb up there and check it. But
and I think we'll see the caves in the caves.
Well, that's what I hope to do with getting our young people to use this technology so they can take you in there, so they can bring it out and show you and help make sense of it all.
Oh, that'll be lovely.
My dog, my dog, my dog.
We should definitely stop coal seam gas in the Pilliga because we need to care more about ourselves. We need to realise that there is a disconnect between us and that kind of growth and investment because it doesn't take care of us long term, both in the environments we want to live safely and also spiritually as well. We should all be caring for each other, and what affects one will eventually affect all. So investing in others and investing in other communities in the long term is investing in yourself.
There's been a number of spills through the forest, but a lot of them not recorded. What we see lying down here in this kill area here is 90% of the trees that were standing that died. And that's to the top end of the kill area, and that doesn't look too bad. But you look to the northeast, and the rehabilitation is up the putty. I have over 500 gigabytes worth of video and photographs taken of the forest over my time here, as well as around about 15 hours of videotape that has to be yet fully downloaded. And that's only the tip of the iceberg of what I've got in there. I have been bringing examples to the gas companies and to the governments regarding the problems of gas since 2006. Been trying to run a property here and make it pay for slightly longer than that. In 2017, late February, 2 days after Santos released its EIS, I threatened suicide. The comment made by our local member stated on a radio program that this Narrabri gas project would go ahead with only minor changes to the information contained in the EIS, coupled with all the strains and the stresses and the knockbacks that I'd had, just pushed me over the edge. It's affected my relationship with my wife. As a token to my wife about moving on, I got rid of a flock that we'd sort of bred on this place here. We'd got good wool, we'd got a good return. They became part of a family. I'm now left with only 3. 2 are blind, and 1 has got 1 eye only, and she looks after the others. I think if I got rid of those 3 sheep, I think it would strike home that everything I had dreamed about in my retirement has been taken away. So while ever they're still here, they're still giving me that connection, really deep connection and sense of purpose for what I wanted to do during my retirement. I'm torn between right now leaving, selling up and going today, and staying to see this battle through with the gas. Yeah, that's... I don't know what else to say. Except that I'm going to be honest, I'm going to see it through.
Be on record, I am not letting you on my place. I will stand firm with my community and I will do whatever it takes to stop this pipeline, and I will not be engaging with you again, and don't misunderstand that as any willingness to let yourselves in, because there will be big trouble if it does, and I've had enough. I'm going home because I can't put up with the nonsense anymore.
Yamandai, Yamandai, Kamilaro, Wolabagan, Niani, Winangala, Yalamu Mare, Maramala, Ndwal, Nale, Dwan, Gira Gabakakan, Gigi, Janal, Diani. Welcome everyone, you are on Gamilaroi country. Think of the ancestors, respect the elders, care for the land. If we all work together, we will make a better future.
Dreams and broken chords, running on empty, losing sleep. Oh, it's true, I've earned these cracks upon my feet. Walk away from all that you know. Walk away, you know you're wrong. Walk away, you know you're wrong. And I've seen people holding on to something, smiling with no place to call home. And you, I see something so familiar. Oh, my dear friend, so nice to have you home. And this all seems unreal, just how far we've come. Look into the mirror, not sure who I want. Walk away from all that you know. Walk away, you know you're wrong. Walk away from all that you know. Walk away and hold your own. When you bow your head and wonder, tell me now, will it all become real? Fill me in, as I sometimes sit and wonder how you may ever find your feet. Walk away. See people holding on to nothing. Walk away. See people holding on to something. Walk away. See people holding on to all that you know. Walk away. See people holding on to hold your own. Walk away and hold your own. And I've seen people holding on to something.
Wow. Ooh, what a really compelling movie. I know that I was particularly moved, almost to tears at some point with some of those testimonies there. Thank you so much for everybody who have stuck with us through a few technical difficulties. And I think that's just testament to how important this campaign is to a lot of people. I want to bring back our panel of 5 that's joined me tonight to answer all your questions. Thank you, guys. Let me do a round robin to reintroduce you for those who missed the beginning. We have Elle Lawless, who is the Newcastle campaign manager. Give us a shout out, Elle.
Hi, everyone.
We have Mark Pearce, who is the brilliant filmmaker and director of the movie that you've just seen. Thank you so much, Mark, for doing that.
Thanks, Micaela. Thanks, everyone, for watching and coming along. It's great to be here.
We also have Margaret Fleck here, who is a representative from Lock the Gate with us and who's also a farmer from Northwest New South Wales. Thank you so much, Margaret, for being with us.
And thank you, everyone, for watching and your involvement and your interest in this subject.
And lastly but not least, we have Giselle here from the Wilderness Society's Movement for Life Community Organising Program. She's a university student, also from Manly in the Northern Beaches area. Hi, Giselle.
Hey, lovely to be helping such a great cause.
So, Mark, I'll start with you. Obviously, there were some really, really interesting characters in that movie, and I know you've been part of the campaign from almost its inception. Can you give us a little bit of detail of what it was like to pull this movie together, but also how the community has rallied in your eyes for the Pilliga?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Micaela. Yeah, absolutely. I started filming. We did a couple of shorter films back in 2013 with Anne Kennedy from the Great Artesian Basin Protection Group. And we also did an Indigenous story with Auntie Maureen and also Jane Judd. And they were just 5 to 10 minute films. And that gave me a really idea of where the community was back then, and I've got to say, you fast forward and you track to now, to the year 2020, and the biggest thing I've noticed in that period, that 7 or 8 years, is that the farmers and the environmentalists have really united as one, and they're now talking about the same issues. Not to say that every farmer wasn't, talking about the same issues way back then, but there was a lot of disconnection between what we were really fighting for, and it's just so pleasing to know that as you saw in the film, I think there was 300 people in that room where Adam was speaking on that Saturday, and to the point where that they won't even speak to Santos individually now. They say, if you want to speak to us, we're all going to come together within the community in one hall under one roof, and that's the sort of inspiration that these people have given me, and to transfer their thoughts and their feelings onto the screen today. So I just feel that those people have inspired me as a person. And their hearts I've taken on now for the rest of my life.
Yeah, thank you. It's one of the things about this campaign that for only the brief amount of moment that I've been a part of it, of the Wilderness Society, is just how many different people, not only the local community but across Australia, have come to come together to actually come against CSG. We actually have lots of questions coming in. I'd like to encourage you all who are still with us, if you have questions for any of us on the panel here, please put them in the comments below and I will be feeding them through. I'd like to reach out to Margaret here. Particularly, we've got some questions regarding water, Margaret. I'll give you first one from oh gosh, they're coming in so fast and quick. Thanks, guys. Can you start having a chat to us about what this project really means for the water of this community?
Well, I think I'll start with our utter reliance on groundwater, the water beneath our feet. When you live on the coast, I think your rainfall is so high and you tend to have a town or a city water supply. We're out here, we actually are the plumbers and the engineers. We know the water source. We actually have to pump it out of the ground and then distribute it, whether you're an irrigator or even a livestock producer or a dry land cropper. So needs to be an appreciation of our very high very high evaporation rates compared to our rainfall, and our utter dependence on groundwater, which is why this Narrabri gas project is such an issue for so many people. It actually drills through a crucial recharge zone of the Great Artesian Basin. So 22% of Australia's land mass overlies the Great Artesian Basin, and there's communities, farmers, all the water users totally reliant on this underground water source, and this is a massive threat to that source. Absolutely. It not only affects community, but it will draw down from groundwater-dependent ecosystems. So because the coal seams are what is called a Gunnedah-Oxley Basin, which lies below the Great Artesian Basin, ultimately gravity works. So the water that is extracted from the coal seams necessarily to release the gas means that over time, and there are projections from Santos that will take up to 200 years, the water will be replaced from aquifers above. And that is one of the concerns apart from contamination.
And sorry, just for everyone watching, I have been told there's a few issues with my microphone. If I do go a bit silent, please, the guests can hear me, but maybe you can't. Bear with us. So we do have some more questions coming in. We have one here from Mikey, which I might throw to Elle. So I'll bring this back out. So Elle, we have a question here that says, at what stage is the proposed development currently at? Is it sitting with the federal, state, or both?
Oh, thanks for the question. That's really important. So the Narrabri Gas Project is currently sitting with the state government, so New South Wales state government, and it's being referred to what's called the Independent Planning Commission for a decision. So it sits with this independent body that is meant to be like non-biased to the project, and they review the submissions and hear people's presentations at the public hearings to then determine whether or not the project should be approved and that Santos should be allowed to go ahead with this incredibly destructive project.
Okay, thank you, Elle. We have another one coming through, which I will flag it with both you and Margaret. Maybe, Margaret, you might be able to start with this one. Are farmers compensated for the damage that fracking does to their property and water?
At this stage, fracking's not proposed, but it could happen because this state has not actually banned the process. And in fact, if you refer back to the New South Wales Chief Scientist report or comments back in 2013, she compared a lot of the coal areas in New South Wales and decided that apart from the Clarence Basin on the northern rivers, that she expected that ultimately fracking would be required. At this stage, Santos says they won't, but it also concurrently, our state has not banned it.
Okay, thanks for that. So one of the things about showing the film today and talking about where we're currently at is really what is the next thing can we do now? So, Elle, can I throw to you with that, and then we might get Giselle to follow up with her involvement in that action.
Yeah, thanks, Micaela. So actually, we all of us, wherever we are in Australia, have a really important role to play in this campaign right now to be protecting that forest, the animals, the nature, the water, people's livelihoods on the land, and the sacred lands of the Gamilaroi peoples. We all can be making a submission to the Independent Planning Commission to say we object to the Narrabri gas field being approved. It's really easy, but it's incredibly critical. So you'll see in the chat that there's a link for where you can go to make that submission and how you can do it. So please, everyone, have your voice heard today.
Now, Giselle, you being part of quite a few teams here at the Wilderness Society with our community organising groups, you've been involved in making some of those submissions and doing a bit more communication work around that. Can you give us a little bit of detail on what you've been doing?
Yeah, I definitely can. It's effectively really simple, but Elle is exactly right when she says that we all can make a submission and we can all make a difference. The beauty of all of the online organising we get to do and all the online work we're doing, especially in the COVID period, is that you can write a submission from wherever you are in the world, wherever you are in the country, and it means that our idea of community doesn't actually need to be limited to, do you live in the Pilliga? I live in the Northern Beaches. There are people all over Sydney who are fighting for this cause as well. And we all have the power to hop onto our computers and make a submission. I know mine took like 20 minutes. Some people in my group have been taking 40 minutes. Some people have been taking 5 minutes. So the great ability that we have to all do that as, you know, a state or a local or a national community is really amazing, I think.
Yeah, thanks for that. We've got a question coming in here about submissions from Damien. What makes a good submission? Elle, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely do. And it's good on Giselle for making that submission. It's brilliant. So good submission needs to be unique. So it's really important that all of our submissions are different from each other. Otherwise, the Independent Planning Commission will discount them as one, as the same. And we need to show the widespread opposition that, you know, thousands of people care about this and thousands of people say no. So if we just make sure that we write the beginning of our submission, introducing ourselves, who we are, why we care. So that might be that you're a grandparent and you have grandchildren and you care about their future because extracting and burning fossil fuels is going to make the climate crisis worse. Or it might be because you really love koalas, or maybe you're a scientist, maybe you're a teacher. You can pop that in. It's just really important that we make our submissions unique from each other. And then there are some suggestions there for how you can respond directly to the Department of Planning's report as well, but just introducing ourselves at the beginning.
Oh, thank you so much, Elle. We've got more comments and more questions coming through. Thank you so much. I'll keep getting to them as I can. We have one here about the film. Mark, you'll love to hear this. Beautiful, moving film. Thank you. Thanks, everyone from Jess Delberg. Thank you for that. We also have a couple more comments here. Stephanie Robinson is asking, what is the history of CSG wells in the area? Sounds like they are established wells that have caused problems already. Mark, there was definitely some of the characters in the movie were talking about that. Can you speak to that a little bit more and your experience having done the film?
What I do know is, there's been a lot of test wells done, and they haven't been producing gas legally. Everything's been testing right up until this stage. So there have been a number of wells in the area for some time. Just trying to answer the rest of the question. So they've been established for since around 2010, as I think as Tony said in the film. I don't know what else I can answer to that.
No,
Margaret,
we can throw it. We've got experts here. We can throw it to Margaret. We can throw it to Elle. Margaret, do you want to go with that?
They have been exploring in the Pilliga region a little longer than Mark's suggesting, and there's certainly wells at the moment in the Liverpool Plains. There's a location or a property called Kailua that has at least 3 wells. There's another one at the southern area of the Liverpool Plains at a site called Glasserton. So they are called exploration and appraisal wells. And this is one of the catches, is that in the Pilliga, they're actually providing gas to a small power station at Wilga Park, but they do not pay any royalties, and they have not ever since they started the Wilga Park power station. So it has been operating for some time and still in this exploration and appraisal stage. And this is the crucial thing, is that we need to stop it before they get to the next stage, and that's another 25 wells in the initial exploration and appraisal. So the Department of Planning have actually broken down the project into phases. So the next phase, if this project was approved, would be further drilling in the Pilliga forest, which we must stop.
Yeah, that's I think underwrites what we're trying to do here tonight in terms of getting more and more people to do these submissions in an attempt to try and get this stopped. Again, the questions are coming through, the statements are coming through. Thank you so much. We have Alana Ann. Thank you. Will do. Great. That's one more submission. I'd love to hear that. We've got a couple of other more questions coming in here. I will try and bring them up, but there was one I saw just before from Winnie. What effects will this project have on Aboriginal cultural sites? Elle, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Winnie. So as we saw in the film, Indigenous culture is, ongoing, strong living culture across the Pilliga region. The cultural sites within the forest and the project area haven't been adequately mapped. So there are some known sites, but there are also some unknown sites, which is also not for non-Indigenous people really to know about. So Santos has said that infrastructure for the project will not impact known sites, but unfortunately, firstly, they haven't adequately mapped where the sites are, and secondly, they don't actually understand the wide-scale connection to country that Gamilaroi people have to that land, that it's across the whole area. It's not just one specific site. And if you destroy the Pilliga, so if you're destroying 1,000 hectares of the forest and then also into the surrounding farmland, that's actually completely fragmenting the whole country and then destroying the people's connection to that landscape and their ability to be custodians of it. So it's a very colonial way of approaching the whole situation, which is actually completely inadequate. And that's one of many reasons why this project shouldn't go ahead.
Yeah, totally.
And I think
agree.
if I just add to that, that as you saw in the film with Pearce, using drones and all sorts of things, that they were seriously rediscovering, new areas, new sites when she was, doing all that mapping and rediscovering stories and caves and things. So I can say that, the people of today still don't know exactly what's there, and they're rediscovering all the time. So it's really important that all that area is quite sensitive, that, before it's touched, it needs to be gone over with a fine tooth comb and with Indigenous consultation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark. We've got more comments in. I just want to share this one. I think in particular, Roy Emin is saying, I grew up on the edge of the Pilliga in Kuna, and this country is too important to destroy for some short-term financial gain, which will also contribute to the environmental and climate disaster for generations to come. Thank you. I want to throw to Elle, Giselle, too many close names here. Giselle for a second. I know you have, while you're based in Sydney, I know you have a bit of a connection to the region. Can you tell us a little bit about that, but also how that affected what you put in your submission?
Yeah, I definitely can talk on that. So I think this is really important in the way that we think about community as well, because when I was actually growing up, a neighbour back in Sydney actually had a farm that was out in Taree, and that area has also had its own fight with CSG, and they've also had their own fight with Lock the Gate, which has been going on since I was a little kid, being like a little 12-year-old, 9-year-old running around on that beautiful farm in that beautiful landscape. And just growing up in that and seeing the very, very real threat that it posed, not only to the landscape, but to the community, and seeing the community and the people and all of those close-knit farmers and townspeople working together to fight that was really influential. And then bringing that back to Sydney and remembering, hey, that's actually still going on. And hey, community doesn't have to be something that's so separated, but it's something that still unites us, and it really needs to if we're going to be fighting against this in a powerful way. I don't know, when I'm just back in Sydney, I think that a lot of us think that it's easy to forget these threats because they're not on our doorstep. But when you think about the places that we've had the privilege of growing up in, the places that we've been privileged enough to go away on holiday in, to go on our bushwalks in, like I think a lot of us have actually been in these recent times, you really have to fight to protect that as well, whether or not you actually live there. And for me, when I was writing my submission, that was definitely something that I reflected on because, hey, I might not live there, but that was definitely a big part of my childhood. And I know it must be an even bigger part of someone else's childhood and entire communities.
I think
that was how I wrote it.
Yeah, and I think it really we talk a lot about the local community and so much of the pull together. I mean, I wrote down something when I was watching the movie just now, like 96% out of all of communities have said no to this. And that's like over 32 million hectares. That really stood out to me as what a unifying message the local community has said. But like you were saying, Giselle, that it's not just the local community, it's the wider community as well. Can either have maybe a connection to it or can see how it may not directly impact their day-to-day, but they can see how it impacts them on a larger scale. And I'd like to just throw to Margaret a bit. I've got a few images I'd love to show about the kinds of people that this campaign has brought together. Margaret, could you speak a little bit to that?
Absolutely. It has actually, and I think this was touched on previously, it has brought environmentalists, farmers, townsfolk, Indigenous community together, and it's really highlighted how much we have in common and and what our interests are, and so that we can move forward as one in opposing this coal seam gas project, because we value, as we found out, the same things. So it's community, the environment, which we ultimately all rely on, and all the resources. And when I say resources, I too mean water, because water is crucial to food security, and we all eat and we all drink, and it's a love of place as well. So many people value the Pilliga, so many people value the surrounds, and this is reflected in this massive 96% of the population, over 3.2 million hectares, opposing the Narrabri gas project. And not only that, that's been reinforced by at least 8 local government areas passing various moratoria opposing coal seam gas and the associated infrastructure. So this is a real measure of the opposition to this project.
Yeah, thank you. And I think we saw a few photos just there of the range of people. And I must admit, the Knitting Nanas is a bit of a favourite of mine. That's such a cute photo and such a cute group of the community. Got more questions coming in. Let me try and get through to them. Thank you all for staying with us and talking about this. We have a question here from Jared. How have the Guillermo people been engaging with the campaign and activist movement? I'm going to throw that one to Elle or maybe Mark. Maybe Elle first.
Yeah, I think we can both have a go at answering it. There are, so across the Northwest region, the Guillermo people have been very strong for many years, working on this campaign and incredibly self-organised. They have their own agency and ability to be campaigning. So no native title, like land use agreements, have been signed despite years of negotiation. So the local Indigenous people really do say no to this project as well. They've been organising their own people. Currently, they're working on writing submissions and getting in recorded stories and videos for the public hearings as well that are taking place. And organising across country. As you saw, the dancers in the film all took part in being part of the film and showing their living culture to us, which was I was there on that day of filming. Actually, it was a really beautiful experience. Very moving to be part of, as I'm sure Mark felt as well. They've just been incredible, and all my respect to them. They're currently also working on a native title agreement so that they can then have access to their land under colonial law as well. So very supportive of that pathway as well.
So
I
was just going to say, before I throw to
the Gomeroi people as well have been incredible in trying to stop the Shenhua mine as well, which Margaret can talk to more too.
Sorry about that, Elle. I lost you for a sec. Yes. Before I throw to Mark or Margaret, I also want to. Penny Evans has had a great comment here about the Gamurai being front and center, and the fact that we didn't have someone from there here on the panel today. Unfortunately, this was a bit of a last-minute throw together, and we're definitely wanting to make sure. I think the campaign has been doing a great job of making sure all voices are trying to be included, but particularly elevating those of the local Indigenous. Mark, would you like to speak a little bit more to the filming and how you found that as a process?
Yeah, I think what was really important, what Elle was just saying about the day we were filming the dances, that on that particular day they had planned their traditional ceremonies, and they were meant to be somewhere else at that time doing traditional ceremony, and but they knew how important this film was going to be to get the word out, and I'd just like to take my hat off and to thank them for taking their time. It was a freezing cold morning. They were barefoot. I don't know how they do it, but they're standing on all those prickles, and I think all of us, apart from Elle, got we got some ticks and all sorts of things that day. So it's very hard going, very hard country, and obviously without country, the Indigenous mobs can't have their ceremony. They can't continue their culture, and that's everything to them, So it's just so important that continues, because it's been going, as we know, it's the longest serving culture and living culture on the planet today. So yeah, those voices have been, they've been squashed and quashed for many years, but it's now that time, and I think we're recognising that to listen to our original people for our future, because they understand what happened yesterday, and we can't know really how to go forward tomorrow until we first understand yesterday, and they understand that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We have some questions coming in terms of the urgency. How long do we have to get submissions in? Elle, I'll throw it to you on that one.
We have until the end of the month, so the 31st of July. So it is very urgent, and it's incredibly important.
Yeah, and as we'll just be pointing out, all the links to how to get your submission in will be in the comments below. So please click through and have a look at those and get those in, because now is a really important time to do that. So I just want to throw out a couple of more comments that have coming in here. We've got Aaron here. Thanks to those rising up for the Pilliga. Thank you, Aaron. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. We've also got Wendy. Thank you. I'm making a submission now. Fantastic. That's makes all of this worthwhile. But actually, I just would like to ask you guys, what has been the most inspiring moment of the campaign for you? I'm going to start with Margaret, because you've obviously been heavily involved for a long time. What has really given you hope in this campaign?
Unity of community. And I first saw that 10 years ago when they tried to ram a high-pressure gas pipeline out of the eastern side of the Pilliga down through the western region of the Liverpool Plains. And again, you would have seen in the film Adam McRae and his family stopping the Western Slopes pipeline. And right now, the current threat is the Queensland Hunter Gas pipeline. And so again, it just unites community that are affected or potentially affected. So I think that's where our strength lies, is the mass of people rising up and saying, we will not have this.
Yeah, I think most of us will echo that. Mark, do you have any other things that have really for you?
Definitely, yeah. Common unity, as community is definitely been that number one thing. Also, I would say that, all these people in the film, and that's what I guess I was trying to depict, to give people a bit more of an understanding of, people like Tony, people like Adam, people like Maria and Pearce, they're all really doing things what I really take to call, of national significance, really, like they're unseen, they're unknown, they're in the outback. And it was just a privilege to get to know them, for a few days and understand their story, because, what they're doing is just so important to keep their own little families and communities going. And that's what it's about, isn't it? Like, this is the Australia we want. What we see there on the film, do we really want an industrialised gas field, in that beautiful part of the country, which I call, true Australia, that forest?
Yeah, I want to throw to Giselle next. What about you?
Yeah, look, I mean, I have to echo the wonderful strength of the community all coming together. But more than that, I think it's really been a beautiful way to discover the diversity and the beauty of like the natural life that we've got going on there. Because when you think about this, it's not just a threat on, hey, maybe like some land or an ecosystem. It really is a threat on the communities and a threat on the life and a threat of the continued life and culture of the Indigenous peoples there. So discovering all that is so beautiful about the life we want to save has been really rich and rewarding for me personally.
Oh, that's fantastic. And actually, it leads me into, and Elle, I'm going to come back to you, so don't worry, but into a question that we have here, which is what species are endangered and under threat in the Pilliga? I love this question as a threatened species biologist myself. I have a few favourites from the Pilliga, which I'd love to share with you. But Elle, I'm wondering if you want to have a chat a little bit more about some of our Pilliga mouse and maybe some of the frogs as well, as I throw it up on screen.
Thanks, Micaela. So there are 35 threatened listed species within the Narrabri Gasfield project area. So that's under the Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act. So they'd be directly impacted by the project. As you can see on the screen now, there's the endemic Pilliga mouse. So it only lives in the Pilliga forest, so it really relies on that habitat for its survival. And if Santos are given a permission to destroy 1,000 hectares of the forest across the 500,000 acres, that actually mosaics the landscape with the CSG wells and pads and the roads all going through the landscape. It chops it up, and it's what's called fragmentation. So then the animals, like the little Pilliga mouse, can no longer move around the forest to breed or to forage for food, and you get what you can get local extinctions, which is really devastating, heartbreaking in the case of the Pilliga mouse, because it actually doesn't live anywhere else, and it really is our duty to be protecting it. It's a really special little creature. There's also just many other species in this forest, and it's full of wildflowers in spring, but it also has koalas, and as we know, koalas have really suffered greatly during the Black Summer bushfires, and it's incredibly crucial that we're protecting their habitat as well. I think you've got the frog up on screen at the moment too.
Can I tell you my favourite things about the frog?
Yeah, of course, Micaela.
I'm a frog fiend. I love frogs. So this is the one thing that I'm going to really get excited about today, just because I'm really keen about this frog. This is the crucifix frog, and I think for me, it looks so amazing, but what it is really one of those frogs that can remain buried for months and months and even years until those drenching rains actually cause them to emerge and feed and mate. And this frog is one of the few species of Australian frogs that has that skin patterning that does not actually provide camouflage, but actually intends to act as a vivid warning against predation. So it's not really clear what the pattern's intended to warn against, but it's funny that scientists have actually said that it's recommended you don't actually touch these frogs because they have found when you wipe your eyes, a few scientists have actually found painful stinging and headaches when they forgot to do that. So I think one of those things that's, the frog is telling us to leave it alone, and hopefully maybe it should be telling CSG to leave it alone as well. So that's my little frog fact for today. We've got some more comments coming in here. Thank you so much, Mark Pearce and all the Wilderness Society for raising this vital issue about saving our groundwater, koalas and our precious Pilliga forest, all our wildlife and Great Artesian Basin for our future generations. Thank you so much, and Vanessa Kennedy. So, no, and thank you for Lock the Gate as well. I think we need to throw that out. There's not just the Wilderness Society. There's been a hell of a lot of people that have been in on this campaign, not just even here right now. Lots of other TWIS campaigners, Wilderness Society campaigners and Lock the Gate campaigners. Elle, Margaret, do you want to speak to this? Elle, I'll throw to you first.
Yeah, I'm one of many fabulous Wilderness Society campaigners who's worked on this. We had both of the Naomis, so Naomi Hogan and Naomi Hodgson, otherwise known as Crystal, and the last Naomi, actually, she produced the film and did a really fabulous job. So good on her. But also, yeah, Lock the Gate's been doing amazing work for many years, and also there are many community groups out in the Northwest who are completely self-organised local volunteers, and they've been fighting this for a really long time. So good on them all too.
Margaret, would you like to add anything?
I would just add that there are a lot of community groups. In fact, it was Naomi Hogan that Elle's just mentioned that was working for the Wilderness Society at the time that actually pulled together 30 or 40 community groups that were sort of working on their own on individual issues, whether it was coal seam gas, or protecting the Pilliga, and brought them all together under the banner of the name Northwest Alliance. And that's very much how people from Dubbo to the Queensland border, from Armidale West to Warren and Walgett operate today as under the banner of Northwest Alliance. And under that banner also comes the Wilderness Society and Lock the Gate. So we're a very cohesive and very geographically spread group with a lot of interests in common.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to try and wrap up. Thank you so much to all of you who have joined us today. I know there's many questions that we may not have got through to this afternoon. It's evening. Where did the time go? We will do our best to get to those questions in the comments after we have finished this live broadcast. Thank you for staying with us with all the technical difficulties. We made it in the end. And as always, the whole point of sharing this film is to help get you guys involved in the campaign. Please make those submissions. They're really, really important right now to try and stop CSG in the Pilliga. So thank you, Elle. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Giselle. Thank you, Margaret. It's been lovely to spend the evening with you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
See you, everyone. Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.